So No Labs, we are based in the Northwest in Seattle. We are developing a non-invasive medical diagnostics platform. We use radio frequency for our platform. So we can basically measure multiple analytes in the body. Our first application is focused on blood glucose monitoring. So our first application is a blood glucose monitoring device. We started this 5 years ago. When we started this journey, we decided that we needed some principles to guide us throughout this journey. First, it had to be accurate, so as accurate as any other CGM in the market. CGMs here, thinking of Dexcom, Freestyle from Abbott, Medtronic, and so on. It has to be affordable. It also has to be pain-free. Of course, if it's non-invasive, it is by its nature going to be pain-free. It has to be convenient, so the user has to be capable of moving around the body, so it's not limited to one location, and also giving the patient more freedom. So if they want to use it now and then remove it for a few hours, change, let's say they want to go to a party, or let's say they want to go swimming, they have that option, and also to be a scalable platform. So that's why we went to radio frequency, so we can detect and monitor more than just glucose. Our focus has been glucose, but I'm going to show some data in other analytes. We have patents that cover more than 100 analytes. So we have done tests on ketones. We have done tests in oxygen, metabolized drugs. So think of ibuprofen, Tylenol, alcohol. So the list goes on. So it's a scalable platform. So with that, meet the KnowU. The KnowU, it's our 4th generation of the technology that we have built. I have it here. It's a functioning device. We have 15 units in-house that we use for our trials. We're in the process of building another 50, and by the end of the year, potentially another 1,000 of these, so we can do large-scale trials with them. So the KnowU use no needles. You can see the sensor in the back. It's 100% non-invasive. Like I said, it uses radio frequency spectroscopy. I'll explain that in the next slide. Continuous monitoring, but it can also be used as a spot monitoring. It's up to the user. Real-time data, so there is no lag in the values that we are predicting, because when you're using proxies such as interstitial fluid, there is some lag. We don't have a lag. No consumables, so no disposables. That helps it to be very affordable. It's wearable. We can wear it two forms, either with a strap, or with an arm strap, or with an adhesive patch. So it basically snaps on this little case. And it's powered by our proprietary AI. So how does it work? It has 3 components. The RF generator controls the signal. There is an antenna array. We went through more than 250 different arrangements to get to this one that's very stable, repeatable. And that RF generator emits a signal through the antenna array, creates this energy field. The energy field goes into the body around 13 millimeters. So we are getting data points from venous blood, capillary blood, and interstitial fluid. That's why we believe we're delivering higher accuracy. And it's captured from the other antenna. The concept is emit energy. As the concentration of that analyte changes, it changes how much energy is absorbed by the body. So by looking at how much energy is absorbed, we can predict the amount of glucose in the blood and other analytes. Quickly, just to show some data, this is actually in vitro data. So this is how the device works. We do a frequency sweep starting 400 megahertz to 4400 megahertz. That's the value that we collect on the receiving antenna. And those are the curves that are built by each sweep. These are curves for fructose, glucose, and ketones. It's I just wanted to show here because it shows very clear the device identifying different analytes. And then on the next slide is really focused on glucose, left one in vitro, right one in vivo. So that's from clinical trials. So what you can see by the different colors is the different concentrations of glucose, both in vitro and medical. It really just to show here the power of the sensor and its capability of identifying different concentrations. Science for us is important. So we started first 3 years focused on miniaturization of the sensor. Then we got into validation. 2021, we did our first study with Mayo Clinic. In vitro, we proved 100% accuracy. Basically, we can in that study, we could put any sort of solution on top of it. In that case, we use alcohol, bleach, and salt. So water is each one of those components, and we can say precisely the concentration in that solution. There are some like party tricks that I do sometimes. We can put some metal cubes on top of here, and I can say if it's copper, titanium, magnesium. So once you understand the RF signature of the metal or the solution or the body, you can start identifying it. So we started, after doing safety tests, we started our clinical tests in 2022. There was a very exploratory study, not just glucose. We did glucose, oxygen, ketones, and some of those other analytes. For glucose, we achieved a 5.8% MARD, super low, but it was also a very small study. When we started following IRB protocols, our MARD went to 20%, and we have been working on decreasing it. Since 2022, we decreased from 19%, so let's call it 20%, to 11.3%. That's the study that we published last year. Major difference here is as we get more participants, as we get more data, we have been able to refine our algorithm. Most recent study, I was in Italy 2 weeks ago, presenting this at the ATTD, which is one of the largest diabetes-focused conferences. We delivered an MARD of 11% in our most recent study. That was for 31 participants, type 2 participants. So with that, we were able to get data on the hyper glucose range in addition to the normal glucose range. And we also use venous blood as the comparison data. All of the data that I showed you in the previous slide was using a CGM, a Dexcom, or a Freestyle as a comparison data. Interesting in this data, in addition to the 11.1%, is when you look at the variance on the ranges. So sometimes it's easier to deliver accuracy on the normal glucose range, so 70 to 150 milligrams per deciliter. But once you start going to very high or very low, you lose that accuracy. So what we were able to do here is that even on hyper and hypo, we maintain the same accuracy, which shows a big value for the user. Just a little bit of our history. So we started on a board, miniaturized to a sensor. I have what we call the Gen 1 here. This was a benchtop version, so the user would just have to rest their arm on top to use in a continuous way. This is what we created that will allow us to start doing testing outside of the lab, so things were just not on a benchtop and wired everywhere. Until we got to our Gen 2, both devices, the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 that we call KnowU, they are mobile controlled by a mobile app, so they have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth capabilities. How we use the Gen 1, I kind of showed, so you just rest your arm or you put your palm on top of it. The Gen 1 is not our go-to-market factor, but it will help us it helped us with the clinical trials, but there are some applications for it as well. This is our Gen 2. Not going to spend much time here. The major difference from the Gen 1 was it's 85% smaller in volume and 75% lighter than the Gen 1. How we use it, we're envisioning use on top of the arm, forearm, and on the abs. So what's happening now, don't want to go through each one of these, but primarily data collection. As we collect more data, we can improve accuracy. Our goal is to deliver an MARD under 10%, and that's what we're working for. We're not seeing that as a big challenge. It's just a matter of collecting more data. Instead of 31 participant studies, we need to do 100, 200, 300 to get there. So why no labs? I would say we're an emerging leader in this space of blood glucose monitoring, global innovator. We have more than 250 patents that protect this technology. So IP is something that we pay a lot of attention to. We're focused on the medical device path. We're not focused on the wellness path. A lot of investors ask us that question, are you going to go to over-the-counter wellness? That's not our goal. And then lastly is a platform technology. Glucose is just the beginning. There is so much more that we can do with it. That's it. Feel free to stop by if you want to. I was going to say test the device, but ran out of battery after testing so many times. But feel free to schedule some time and we'll share more of our story. So thank you.